Back in the days when horse-drawn carriages were the common means of transportation, everyone thought the automobile was just a fad. I mean, horses did just fine getting you from point A to point B. Everyone was used to all the extra steps and horse manure that went along with it. To me, having a dynamic, interactive menu is like having an automobile. And having a static menu, whether in print or PDF or a website menu, well, that's a lot like having a horse-drawn carriage. Static menus are what we're used to, and they feel harmless because they get the job done. I mean, a restaurant needs a menu and we've already got one, so why change them? I've worked with them in every form, from printed menus to PDFs to websites, even those wall boards that you see behind the counter. And they're all just sitting there, unchanging, even though they always need to be changed. And we've all gotten used to the nuances of manually updating them, not to mention maintaining them. This menu has ketchup all over it. Whose side work was menus last night? Yeah, I know we just reprinted all the menus, but dairy went up again and we got to charge another $1 for all the tacos and cheeseburgers and chicken parmesan. That's just part of the job. Restaurants have to have menus, and so we've tolerated doing whatever we have to keep them on hand and as up to date and informative as we can make them. But the fact that menus aren't dynamic really causes a problem. We're so busy maintaining static menus that just sit there, unchanging, that we don't have time to consider any alternatives. And that's why they quietly cost more than anyone expects. Static menus feel familiar, and restaurants know the routine. Someone makes a small change, say they notice a typo. Then someone updates the file. Which folder did I save it in? And then somebody has to reprint all those menus. We're out of black toner. Or maybe they just have to resave a PDF or post it to the website. Maybe you're one of those restaurants where you work with a graphic designer. You just have to send them an email with all the changes. They send you the proofs, you read it over, hope you don't miss any mistakes, and then they send you the PDF so you can print it or send it off to a printer. It's not that hard, really. It's just constant. It's a manual chore that's part of running a restaurant. But how many times have you noticed a typo, maybe after printing about 100 menus? Oh, well, I guess we'll fix it when we reprint again next month. From pricing to ingredients to new items, restaurant workers are making little tweaks all the time. And they all need to be checked and double checked. Because everyone's used to this process, it feels simple, maybe even cheap, but it never stops. And the costs add up, not just in graphic designers and printer toner, but in time and ultimately in effectively communicating your menu to your guests and your employees. A static menu is a system that can show menu information, but it can't respond to it. So when a guest asks, "Can I have this without dairy?" or "Does this have nuts in it?" the system remains silent. Static menus cause the responsibility of communicating menu information to shift from the menu to the staff. And really, not just the staff, but the guests too. All the people interacting with the menu have to talk about it to set the record straight so that everybody knows what they can expect. Guests have to ask questions about all the information that isn't there because frankly, you can't fit all that information on a menu. I mean, maybe you could, but it wouldn't look that great. So restaurant staff are left to have to translate those shortened descriptions to paint the full picture. They're like human encyclopedias. So this rice is a little bit different from your typical rice. It's more like a risotto. The menu doesn't mention it, but there's also mixed vegetables in there as well. I can't tell you how many times I've provided descriptions for the menu or for dishes for everyone at the table just so that they won't ask me the questions most people ask based on what's been left out of the menu. Now, if the staff member is new or they just don't know because someone hasn't asked them that question in 6 months, then they're going to have to ask managers or cooks instead of being able to provide the answer right there at the table. A lot of training on descriptions of dishes is to prepare the staff for these questions, but you really don't know until you've been on the floor for a while. You don't learn the menu until you've had so many guests ask you questions about it. So much time, effort, and resources are spent just because the menu can't respond to questions. All that extra work doesn't show up in a report. Sure, you can run a P&L and it's going to tell you the cost from administrative fees and office supplies, maybe even labor from training. But there isn't a report that you can run that'll calculate the true costs of a static menu. But anyone working the floor in a restaurant knows where the real costs of a static menu lies. They see it every day in interruptions that increase ticket times, table turn times, and slow the overall flow of operations. Extra steps, extra trips, and extra pressure, right when everyone is already moving fast, all to help the menu do its job of communicating what guests can expect. Multiply that across a shift, then a week, then a full staff, and factor in all the communication between staff and management and the kitchen, not to mention pre-shift meetings, post-shift meetings, and training. That's the real cost of static menus. As menus grow, as teams change, and as expectations rise, static menus lean even harder on staff communication and everyone's memory. Even with all that communication, sometimes memories fade over time or just get mixed up. I've heard it thousands of times. Is this one garnished with chives or cilantro? I always get those mixed up. A new sauce on this dish? I know we just changed it last week. Put down the pepper mill. Corporate said we're not putting cracked pepper on that dish at the expo anymore. No one told me I was scheduled in after pre-shift. And assuming everyone's memory isn't flawless, how well do you think memory holds up during the adrenaline pumping rush of a Friday shift? I've seen great teams struggle with that. Not because people aren't good at their job, but because the system hasn't changed and everyone's just used to it. So static menus are frozen in an environment that never is. As a system that has to push work onto people to help meet the dynamic needs of guests. Anyone who's worked a rush has felt that. And hey, static menus aren't bad. They've been a necessary step in the evolution of restaurants. But like the horse-drawn carriage, it's time to replace static menus with something a lot more efficient that makes lighter work for a lot of people, both for staff members and for guests.